So I made that video either last week or 2 weeks ago about some changes I've made as a coach. I just have one more thought that I should have included into that video. So when I look back at how I've matured as a coach, I think the biggest shift has been how I view progress. So early on when I was younger, I was more fixated with things like numbers. I was more fixated with like objective demonstrations of improvement, more weight, more reps, more volume, more velocity, more outputs, higher outputs, things like that. And I'm talking about like the clients or the athletes that I worked with. I've been somewhat of an advanced lifter for a while. And even when I was a younger coach, I knew from my own training that progress occurs over years and even decades. But with my clients who had a younger training age than me, I wanted progress to be more frequent and more consistent and more linear than it truly was. So I would really push for them to increase the magnitude of stress in some way as often as I could. I try to get them to squeeze out any last bit of progress that they could on a nearly daily basis, if not a weekly basis. And to be honest, a lot of coaches when they're young kind of get stuck in that mindset, and it's really just a trap. I think I, like many others, became blind to the fact that these athletes and clients have just as much or even maybe more outside stress than I did. And now I just understand that real, meaningful adaptations does take years for everyone, even for those with lower training ages. Beginner gains are just beginner gains. The easier they come, the shorter they last during a period of detraining, especially with younger clients and older clients, because they both have time on their side, meaning they likely don't have a date in which their training needs to be peaked. There's zero advantage to rush progress. Younger trainees, even in their late teens and early 20s, still have a lot of physical and psychological maturity to be developed. Elder trainees are unlikely preparing for any sort of competition. They have a huge runway ahead of them, so trying to squeeze out an extra 5-pound jump just for the sake of saying you got better this week doesn't provide any sort of upside. That's not what real long-term development looks like. If you really have the itch to add load, use micro plates. I've been using those a ton with my clients. A jump from 80 pounds to 82 pounds in one session means the jump to 85 pounds will be much smoother afterward. And as strength and conditioning professionals, we should encourage our clients to train for the entirety of their lifespan. And regardless of what performance looks like at a client's best, the actual metric is probably the same whether it's after 4 months or 8 months or 9 months or whatever. The only difference is the rate of that performance. Either way, they'll likely finish their progress at the same place metrics-wise. And when they get there, tweak the program accordingly to continue further adaptations. A 5-pound jump may feel like a win in the moment, but if it comes at the cost of technical breakdown, accumulated fatigue, or simply just skipping over the foundational work that needs to happen, it really isn't much of a win. So yeah, I've matured by respecting the long game more. You adapt, then progress, not progress to adapt. So that's just one perspective I wanted to share on here. Hopefully it provides you with some value and insight. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next video.